May is one of the best gardening months here in Florida. And I say that because our big fruiting crops like tomatoes, peppers, eggplants, squash, and cucumbers will all be producing in the month of May. And when it comes to planting, we're transitioning to our hot season and even our tropical crops. So in today's video, I'm going to share a little bit at the beginning about what we should be looking out for in our garden this month when it comes to harvesting and when it comes to pests. And then we'll get into all the vegetables, herbs, and flowers we should be planting this month, whether you're in North Florida, Central Florida, or South Florida. Let's get into it. Some of us still have some cool weather crops in the garden right now, like celery, for example, carrots, maybe even a cabbage or two. May is when we really need to be harvesting those and getting them out of the garden. They're really not going to thrive when the temperatures start warming up a lot and then we start seeing rain come in at the end of the month. Pulling those cool season crops out of the garden frees up the garden space for something that's really going to thrive in the heat. So for example, I pulled out my struggling sugar snap peas that were on a trellis right here, and I sowed some seeds for okra in that spot. If you planted squash earlier this season, you probably have some vines that look a little something like this. This one seems much healthier than this one. This one is certainly dying, and I'll show you why in a moment. This acorn squash is nice and dark green. We're going to harvest it when it's dark green with just the slightest tinge of orange or yellow starting to happen somewhere on it. So I'm just waiting for that to happen before I harvest it, and I'm hoping it gets a little bit bigger. This vine over here, first of all, the leaves are crinkly and it probably has some powdery mildew all over it, so it's pretty stressed out. And also, I want to point out a mistake I made. I didn't harvest this one early enough. It turned all the way yellow, and this is a signal to the plant that it's finished its job with reproducing, and the vine is going to die and it's unlikely to produce any more fruit. And check out my little morning glory flower, it's so cute. But it doesn't have that many flowers. But I planted a vining flower on the arch so that whenever it comes time to cut the squash off of the vine like it's dying, I'll still have something on the trellis. On a cucumber plant, you need to watch for the same thing that I just showed with the acorn squash. If you let a cucumber turn yellow on the vine, it signals to the plant that it's done its job reproducing and it's unlikely to continue bearing fruit. So keep an eye on the cucumbers, although I think it's easier said than done. There's a lot of big leaves, and I come out here and harvest my cucumbers every day lately, and I still accidentally miss one or two, and I'll have to harvest them a little bit past their prime. I've had a ton of success with this Monica cucumber though. I've harvested like 15 pounds of Monica cucumbers already from 9 different plants. It might even be more than 15 pounds. It was definitely 2 moments of harvesting 7 pounds, and then I get 1 or 2 kind of in between those big flushes. Right here is another example of what happens to our cool weather loving crops this time of year if they're still in the garden. This is a bok choy, and there's another one right behind it. And they started bolting not too long ago because I've noticed bok choy is very sensitive to temperature swings and warm weather, and it'll bolt right away. And now that it's been a week or two, it's producing full-blown flowers. You can see the bee landing on the flower right there. So letting your cool weather crops like this stay in the garden after they've bolted and flowered is another good way to bring in the pollinators for your plants that need it, like the squash, cucumbers, maybe the peppers, and the beans. But when it comes time to remove this one out of the garden, I don't feel bad because I already have flowers like nasturtium and marigolds planted as well. So I don't feel like I'm starving the pollinators when I remove it. Now is a great time to talk about our brand new app called Taproot Gardens. In this app, you'll be able to subscribe to my planting guide, which now includes fruit and fruit trees. So you'll have vegetables, herbs, flowers, and fruits, including all the varieties and all of the planting times for a small monthly subscription fee. The app will have so much information. It even allows you to filter on part sunflowers. So for example, when I was at Rockledge Gardens and I was shopping for a flower for this particular pot, I used my app, I filtered on the current month, and I filtered on part sun, and it came up with impatiens. So I looked around the nursery and I found the most beautiful impatiens, and here we are, the plant is thriving. It's a great way to manage your garden, and it's also a great way to help you when you're shopping for some starts. I'll drop a link in the description box below so you can check it out. Now let's get into what we should be planting in the month of May. And the first one I want to talk about is okra. I just planted several different plants of a Clemson spineless okra, and these crops get really big and really tall, but they're also extremely high producers. They've got to be spaced about 18 inches apart, but they're so simple to plant. All you have to do is put the seed directly in the garden. And May is a great time to plant okra because our soil temperatures are finally warm enough for that germination. It really likes the soil temperatures to be between 75 and about 85 degrees before it'll actually germinate. And since your garden is still going to be full of tomatoes that are producing, peppers producing, eggplants that are producing, your best bet is to plant okra where you just harvested a cool weather crop. I planted a whole bunch of them. I even put them in this tree ring back here because I really want to have a lot of really tiny okra so I can make some really good pickled okra. And sometimes okra is a little bit difficult because you have to harvest it every day once it starts producing, and there's a very small window of the prime size to be harvesting it, especially if you want like pickled okra is really good when it's like really small okra. And so having more plants gives me a little bit of room for error if I don't harvest right on time. Our next heat-loving crop is a sweet potato. And if you've never planted sweet potatoes before, they're planted in a unique way. We do a process called starting slips before we plant them in the ground. So what I'm doing here is waiting for my sweet potatoes, these are store-bought sweet potatoes, to sprout. I can see the sprouts are beginning to show up over here. And once those sprouts are coming off the sweet potato and they're about 4 to 6 inches in height and they have some leaves on them, I'll cut them off of the sweet potato and put them in a mason jar full of water. And then those sprouts are gonna root. Once they grow roots, they're ready to transplant out into the garden. This whole process will take about 6 to 8 weeks. So I'm not sure if mine will actually go in the garden this month, or maybe I'll put them out in June whenever they're ready. If you haven't started any slips yet and you'd like to, you can go to the store and pick up just a regular sweet potato. Choose organic if possible. These are just your standard regular, I think it's a Beauregard variety of sweet potato. I got these from Publix. These are a Japanese sweet potato that I picked up from Trader Joe's. I know I've got some Trader Joe's lovers out there, so this is a reason to go to Trader Joe's. I found the Japanese sweet potato with the white flesh at Trader Joe's, and I'm sprouting them here. I'm gonna try both varieties, and you should be able to get several sprouts off of each sweet potato. You could plant the entire sweet potato, but I really don't recommend it. Worst case, it might rot underground before it really does anything, or best case, it just lengthens how long it takes to grow. These are long-term crops. They're gonna be planted for at least 6 months before you harvest them. And if you were to plant the entire sweet potato in the ground, you're gonna have to add at least 2 months to that, maybe more. I have an update on my Yardlong bean plants. If you watched my What to Plant in April video last month, I talked about how I thought that these plants had a mosaic virus that was caused by aphids and is incurable and will majorly stunt the growth. But I sent off a sample to the UF-IFAS Plant Diagnostics Lab in Gainesville to be sure about the diagnosis before I pulled all the plants. And they were a little bit slow because we were going back and forth adding more tests to make sure that we tested it all the way. And I just got the results the other day, and they said it is not a virus. There's no virus at all. It's 2 different types of fungi. One is a Fusarium fungi and one is a Phomopsis leaf spot fungi. And I'm mentioning this because I'm going to do a video later this month about how to diagnose a plant issue and some tools that we can use as home gardeners to get better in that regard. So if you're interested in that type of a detailed science-y video, hit that subscribe button. You don't want to miss it. The next heat-loving crop we can grow is a southern pea. And a southern pea includes like Crowder peas and black-eyed peas. I've grown black-eyed peas before and they're highly productive. They will grow just like this on a teepee trellis. They'll just wrap that single bamboo stake and they'll produce like crazy. There's two different ways to harvest a southern pea. Some people prefer to harvest when the pods are nice and green and the peas are young, and they're really flavorful that way. But if you're looking for long-term storage of your southern peas, you can let them dry on the vine, then pick them, then shell them, and store them for long-term storage. My kids love shelling the southern peas. I think it's a fun summertime activity for them. Another option is a Thai soldier long bean. These are extremely heat tolerant and they're closer to like a green bean in the way that you might prepare and eat it. You can support these in the same way on a teepee trellis or an arch trellis, but you will need to give those long vines a place to go. I might actually put these, once my cucumbers look like they're really almost done, I'll go ahead and sow some of these to replace the cucumbers on that arch. You can really have a very full and productive looking garden if you plant sweet potatoes and southern peas or Thai soldier long beans. They will fill out a trellis so fast and you'll have a beautiful big green garden in the summer, especially if you add our next crop, which is a Seminole pumpkin. I sowed some Seminole pumpkin seeds the other day right here in this tree ring. I did it last summer and the big long vines with the variegated leaves, they're very pretty, especially when they're planted intermixed with like zinnias, and you'll see the vine wrapped around on the ground and you'll see the flowers sprouting up over the vines. It's very pretty. And the plant loves our heat and humidity. I've never really even noticed wilting in the leaves. It seems just fine in the summertime. I will say it's not the most productive plant for me, and maybe that's my fault for not fertilizing it appropriately. But last year, I think I had 12 Seminole pumpkin plants all wrapped around that tree ring right there. And I think I harvested about 7 pumpkins. Our next heat lover is a Roselle. These get pretty tall, just like okra, and they also get bushy. So if you put them in a raised bed, you're gonna wanna be aware that it takes up a whole lot of space. People will harvest the calyxes and use them for tea, or even a mixed drink. I just went to a party at my friend's house last weekend and she was serving a cocktail with the Roselle hibiscus in it. Now let's talk about some herbs we can plant this month. This is my tea garden. It's full of herbs and flowers and it's really just taking off this spring. Most of us are past the peak timing for planting our annual herbs this month, but North Florida, you guys are a little bit cooler than the rest of the state. So you guys can still be planting almost any type of herbs. So chives, parsley, thyme, oregano, lemon balm, mint, pretty much any herb you can think of, you guys can still plant this month. When it comes to the rest of the state, I would probably focus on some perennial ones if I was gonna plant right now. And those would be like rosemary, oregano, and thyme, any of your woody herbs. Also, if you want some herbs that are not going to thrive outside right now, you could always plant them indoors. I have some marjoram and thyme that are growing in a pot inside, and I could certainly expand that to something like cilantro. We have a short growing season for cilantro because it really hates the heat. So indoors is probably a good option for annual herbs right now. Now let's get into flowers. Surprisingly enough, there's a lot of flowers that will do well all through summertime here in Florida. I want to talk about this one first because I just found it and I love it. Look at the blooms, they're beautiful. This is an impatiens, but it's a Rockapulco impatiens. I got the start at Rockledge Gardens recently, and I saw it and I was just like totally in love with it. It looks quite a bit different than most other impatiens. This is definitely a candidate for part sun or very little sun, if that. This is probably the shadiest spot in my lanai area. It doesn't get morning sun and it barely gets some afternoon sun. Milkweed is another great option to plant this month. And there's several different types of milkweed. I just bought 2 native varieties. One of them is a pink milkweed, and I forget the name of the other one. But what we really need to do is probably avoid the tropical milkweed. It's a host for a parasite that actually kills the monarch butterflies, and it doesn't actually support them like we want. And it's a shame that it's marketed as a butterfly flower, especially when you go to a big box store. So just be mindful of that for that particular flower and try to go for a native species, which you can usually find at a local nursery. Some other great candidates of flowers to plant this month would be marigolds, French marigolds if you want the benefit of root knot nematode deterrence. Crossandra is a good one. It's also called a firecracker flower. Then you could do gomphrena. It's the flower that looks like a globe, and it looks really nice when it's balanced with something else in a bouquet. Celosia and summer snapdragon or angelonia is a good option as well. I think something that has frustrated me through the years of learning how to garden and learning more flowers is all the different names for the same type of flower. It gets me every time. I might go to the store with a list that says buy summer snapdragon, and then I can't find a summer snapdragon anywhere, and then I find out that, oh, it's also called angelonia. So sometimes it's a little bit tricky, and I think it's just something we have to learn over time, and maybe you have somebody in your life that has more experience than you that you can learn from, or sometimes we're just limited to what we've learned on our own from the internet or from books. Zinnia flowers are a great option for the heat too, and they're so easy. You can just sprinkle a big packet of seeds somewhere and they will come up and they'll thrive. I have them probably in my least nutrient dense soil and they do just fine. And actually I see them pop up all over the yard. So if you haven't tried zinnias before, definitely try some zinnias this summer. Taurinia or a wishbone flower is also a good candidate for a place like this where it gets part sun. It's such a pretty flower, but it's pretty low to the ground, so you might want to use it as a border flower or in a pot like this. That wraps up my What to Plant in May video. I hope you guys enjoyed it and keep on planting. See you next time, guys.